Unexpected eliminations in the World Cup group stage. Unexpected is becoming uncommon in football. If you've been following the game for a while, you will have noticed that anything can happen. The minnows can rise and the mighty can fall. This year in Qatar, France have broken a trend. Usually, the defending champions don't perform very well. That obviously cannot be said for Les Bleus. Thankfully though, there have been plenty of other surprises. What did you find to be shocking at Qatar 2022? Let's relive the moments together as we look back at some famous times when the giants of the game didn't make it beyond the group stage. Starting with the latest dropouts that are still very fresh in our memory, Germany and Belgium. Germany and Belgium both took early flights home from the Qatar 2022 World Cup, despite being in a wider group of favourites at the start of the tournament. In the build-up to their loss to Morocco, star midfielder Kevin De Bruyne provided us all with a disclaimer for Belgium. He conceded that the golden generation, as they are known, is now over, that they cease to exist. He claimed that their chances of winning the World Cup were long gone, even before the group stages were completed. De Bruyne had some choice words on a day where Belgium sluggishly just about squeezed past Canada. And on that day, in reality, he was wrong. They needed the very best of their veteran goalkeeper Thibaut Courtois. He saved a penalty to keep them in the game. However, generally speaking, Belgium's exit proved De Bruyne correct. De Bruyne also remarked that their best chance at winning a World Cup was 4 years earlier in Russia, where they lost to France in the semi-finals. Despite not winning a trophy in recent years, Belgium climbed to the peak of the FIFA World Rankings. But as good as they are on paper, they couldn't show it on the field. The victory against Canada was followed by a crushing defeat to Morocco and a goalless draw with Croatia. Belgium were going home early. A team full of stellar names like Kevin De Bruyne, Thibaut Courtois, Romelu Lukaku and captain Eden Hazard had failed to achieve anything meaningful over a 10-year period with Belgium. For a second successive World Cup, Germany, the mighty Germany, also went home in the group stages. Despite having a squad full of big names, a 4-2 victory against Costa Rica and a 1-1 draw against Spain, Germany did not do enough to make it to the round of 16. Japan took their place in the next round. In 2018, it was South Korea. They finished bottom of a group that also included Sweden and Mexico. What has been going wrong with Germany? Only Brazil have won more titles than 4 times champions Germany. Therefore, it truly is a massive shock that in 2 consecutive World Cups, they've went home early. It was Spain who had a bitter pill to swallow in the 2014 World Cup in Brazil. Tiki-taka had ruled in South Africa, but in Brazil, it was no more. This peak Spain team was coming to the end of its career. Ramos, Puyol, Piqué, Alonso, Fabregas, David Villa and Fernando Torres. They were all champions 3 times consecutively in international tournaments for Spain, but in 2014 they came unstuck. 4 years earlier, Spain had beaten the Netherlands in a historic final. However, this time they were thrashed 5-1 in the group stage. This loss was followed by a 2-0 defeat to Chile. Spain were humbled, and despite a 3-0 victory over Australia in their 3rd match, they were going home. World Cup winning manager Del Bosque was still with the side in Brazil. He said, "If they had told me that we would be in this situation before we arrived in Brazil, considering how the players were training and how focused they were, I would have thought it was impossible." Another famous one to add to the list, Italy, champions in 2006, 2010, you guessed it, out in the groups. 2006 was a 4th title for Italy. They won back-to-back World Cups in 1934 and 1938 and added a 3rd in 1982. For our generation, the image of Fabio Cannavaro lifting up the World Cup trophy to the sky in Berlin will live long in the memory. A star-studded Italian team had a beautiful run to the final. They were able to see off Ghana, the USA and the Czech Republic in the group. Francesco Totti scored a late penalty against Australia to send them through to the quarter-finals against the Ukraine. They eased past Ukraine and into the semi-finals after a 3-0 win that included a brace from big striker Luca Toni. In the semis, it was grosso glory, and they defeated the hosts on their own turf. Italy were through to their 6th World Cup final, and with eyes on the trophy, all they needed was a helping hand or head from Zinedine Zidane. Despite putting the French ahead with a beautiful clipped penalty, Zidane saw red. His infamous headbutt led to an inglorious exit on what would be his last game for France. A real shame, but not for Italy. They would raise the trophy after winning a hotly contested penalty shootout. But 4 years later, the Giants fell. In a group with Paraguay, Slovakia and New Zealand, it didn't seem possible that the Italians could continue the trend of going home early. In the end, however, they recorded the worst World Cup performance in Italian history, drawing 1-1 with Paraguay and New Zealand before losing to Slovakia 3-2. It ended so badly for Marcello Lippi. The head coach knew that he got it all wrong. He was quoted saying, "I take full responsibility. If a team shows up at an important game with terror in its heart, its head and its legs, it must mean that the coach did not train them as he should have. I thought the men I chose would have been able to deliver something different, but obviously I was wrong." France won the World Cup as hosts in 1998, their first global triumph. So what happened in 2002? Group stage exit. On a famous night in Paris, Zinedine Zidane scored a brace and Emmanuel Petit added another, as France defeated Brazil 3-0 in the Stade de France. So the French arrived with confidence in 2002, looking to add more silverware to the cabinet. They had just won Euro 2000 in Holland and Belgium. However, a shock defeat in their first match to Senegal left them deflated. In the second group game, France could only muster a goalless draw against Uruguay, leaving them under tons of pressure for the final group game against Denmark. You could see the pressure on the faces of the French players in this game. Clearly, the pressure they could not handle. They fell to a 2-0 defeat at the hands of Denmark, and that was the end of their trophy defence. Astonishingly, a French team full of superstars on the back of 2 consecutive international titles finished the group in last place without scoring a single goal. Marcel Desailly was quoted to say, "It's really something terrible because it doesn't happen that the world champions go out in the first round. We still have the best players, but something was broken in the machine." Patrick Vieira also remarked after the loss, "I think we got what we deserved. Maybe the commitment wasn't enough, and that's why we didn't win the games that we should have." Not since Brazil in 1966 had a defending champion been eliminated in the first round. Thereafter, though, it became a trend that lasted for 2 decades. This incredible run of misfortune for previous champions started with France in 2002 and lasted for 2 decades. In fact, just a couple of weeks ago, it was France that proved this 2-decade run would not happen again. As champions, they qualified first in their group. Clearly, this is a really interesting trend. How can a team that's so clearly powerful, full of stars and full of confidence not make it past the first round after winning the trophy the last time? What do you think is the problem? What do you think these champions needed to improve? Do you think this could happen again in 2026? What other World Cup curse would you like to talk about? Let us know in the comment section below.